Make-A-Wish recipients and workers, what were some wishes you had to say no to? Make-A-Wish wished grantor here, and I have to say it is the ultimate sadness when we have to stop the process because a non-custodial parent won't sign the paperwork. It's happened far too oft. What's the interaction like with that parent? Do you get to give them a piece of your mind, or try to shame them, or is it just like, oh well? As a wish grantor I do the part where we meet the child and the parents, and then as long as no one is a douche we get to actually grant the wish. Our central office staff are the lucky folks who have to track down the non-custodial parent and ask for their permission to grant the wish for the child. I'm just a volunteer, so the paid people do the extra challenging stuff like that. I would hope they at least say something to make them reevaluate their life for denying their child a wish, when that child not only has a life-threatening illness, but also clearly a not so happy family life on top of it all. Every single time I've had a non-custodial parent refuse, it's been because of spite towards the other parent. They don't want that parent getting a free trip or any benefit from the wish. Not to say there aren't other people who have had other reasons to decline, but that's sadly been the reason in my experience. Usually the wishes we had to say no to were from the kids' family members. There was always some uncle, grandma, cousin, sibling or parent who wanted to hijack the kid's wish. A classmate of mine now passed got to meet and greet with Sammy Sosa. The understanding from the Make-A-Wish people was that Sammy would sign autographs and sit with the family for a while. Now, this kid was all about Sammy. He had his jerseys, loved Sammy's little leaps after home runs, and I even was begin to Pepsi because of Sammy too. When the day came, Sammy showed up late. He didn't respond when the family greeted him. It was described as a sullen silence, signed a glove, and then walked away. My classmates started crying once it was clear Sammy was not going to come back. Right when the parents were about to leave, another baseball player named Corey Patterson saw my classmate, came up, signed everything they had, and talked and joked around with the family for over a half hour. Corey became my classmate's favorite player that day, and I think he lived perhaps a year after that moment. At his funeral, my classmate's picture with Corey was one of the prominent pictures. That moment and day truly meant the world to him. He was around 10 to 11. To this day I'm unsure if someone from Make-A-Wish found Corey or if the moment was as spontaneous as it was described to me. But no matter what, Corey will always have a special place in my heart because of that story. Edit. I of course was not there, and I'm not a primary source for Sammy's interactions with my classmate, but I know and trust the family. Edit 2. Wow, I did not expect this post to take off like this, nor did I expect the silver shout out to Corey Patterson being amazing. One thing that a couple of anons have pointed out that I think is worth mentioning is that it seems unlikely that Make-A-Wish would organize a meet and greet with Sammy Sosa, gently suggesting I was misremembering the context. The anons argued that it's more likely their meet and greet would be with the Cubs team as a whole, and that this changes the context of Sammy's actions if the meet and greet wasn't directly with him. What I do remember is that this story really rocked our tight-knit community, but made us that much more appreciative of Corey Patterson. My little brother has had 2 heart transplants so far, and will probably get another before it's all said and done. His wish was to go to Nintendo. Well, Nintendo Japan doesn't grant wishes, but Nintendo of America does. He stayed in Seattle for a few days and had a day-long tour of Nintendo. Unfortunately, Ricky wasn't in the office that day, but the Treehouse staff led him around all day. This was right before the Switch came out, so he got to play Breath of the Wild before anyone. They gave him a sweet goodie bag and let him go on a shopping spree in the employee store. I received a wish when I was 15. At that time I was madly in love with Harry Styles and of course wanted to use my wish to meet him and spend the day with him. After telling the wish coordinator this, she broke the news to me that if I were to meet him, it would be a year from then, with about 15 other kids for a very brief moment, a hello and a photo. Upon hearing that disappointing news, I changed my wish and instead went to Australia for 10 days with my family and swam in the Great Barrier Reef. Just for some background, both my sister and I are pretty damn sick, and so we had the rare occasion where we both got wishes. My family suggested that we just do one, but Make-A-Wish was adamant that we each got our own. My sister's Make-A-Wish was to meet Taylor Swift. We flew to Nebraska for 2 days, got in the same meet and greet line as people who won radio contests, took a picture with Taylor Swift, and that was that. I, on the other hand, asked to meet Christopher Nolan. He had never been requested for a wish, so we were flown to LA, where we got a tour of the Warner Brothers lot, and then had a private lunch with Nolan and Emma Thomas, his wife. We hung out for 2 hours, where they finally left, because they had some film related thing to do. We found out later that he'd only agreed to an hour, but during the lunch, insisted that he stayed longer. It was quite interesting how we both had celebrity wishes, and they both turned out so differently. I asked for a shotgun because I was into clay shooting. They said no. Went for a rally driving day. They picked my family and I up in a limo, drove us 2 hours to the place, and then I had the whole place to myself and lots of time behind the wheel. It was great. They paid for pro pictures and a meal after for my family and my godparents' family. Even just gave me some spending money. I had a great time. 10 years later, still alive. This isn't my personal story, but of my uncle who passed away shortly after I was born. He loved the Terminator so much that he wanted nothing more than to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. Due to having a busy schedule, Arnold's agent had to deny him of his wish a couple of times. Was filming for the second Terminator. My uncle was so determined to meet Arnold that he then changed his wish to meeting Mariah Shriver, Arnold's wife. Because of his determination, he was allowed on set of Terminator 2, Judgment Day. He got to meet Arnold, Mariah, and Arnold's stunt double. My mom still has the pictures, and it makes my heart sore. Make-A-Wish is fantastic and I'm so glad my uncle got to live out his dream. Update: thank you for everyone who read this and left a reply. My uncle was a great guy and I wish I could gotten to know him personally. I called my mom and let her know about this comment and all your responses. She loved her brother more than anything, and hearing so many people got to know one of his stories made her so happy. Thank you everyone. I'm glad his legacy gets to live on in such a positive way. My condition prevented international travel, so even though my top wishes were to go to Japan or to the UK to meet J.K. Rowling, those were denied. I ended up doing a shopping spree at Mall of America, which sounds kind of lame, but I grew up poor and had a lot of fun being able to just buy things for myself without worrying. First thing I bought was a new pair of glasses, since my old ones were scratched to shoot and too weak anyway. When I was in college I had a good friend named John. We were both in automotive 8 hours a day for 2 years. One day we grabbed sushi on lunch and he casually mentioned at 12 years old, current age 20, he was a recipient of Make-A-Wish. He asked for sushi and just sushi. You could see his eyes light up just telling the story. They set him up with a private lunch at a local sushi bar, where he had the entire selection of sushi rolls laid out in front of him with each and every possible condiment / roll / side. Not an expensive or grandeur request, but Make-A-Wish went above and beyond. I've been the recipient, and later on after my health improved I volunteered as a wish coordinator. My original wish was to attend the Oscars. That got denied by the Academy as they do not grant wishes. I wound up going to the People's Choice Awards as a VIP. Make-A-Wish flew my family to LA for a week, all expenses paid. They got us a limo for the show, paid for my dress, hair, and makeup. We walked the red carpet and were seated very close to the stage. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The generosity of the volunteers is remarkable. They even had someone greet us at the airport on arrival. It was extremely important to me that my brother and sister were included in my wish, because my illness had robbed them of part of their childhoods. I'm forever indebted to everyone who made my wish possible. When I turned 18 I decided to volunteer as a wish coordinator to give back to an organization that did so much for me. I met with wish kids and their families. We would always arrive with a gift for all the children and the family, based on a little survey they filled out. We'd talk with the child and help define their wish. It's important to determine the child's true wish and make sure that it isn't influenced by parents. The most common wish is to go to Disney. Celebrity meet and greets are the ones that often can be turned down. First, because it is undefined what a meet and greet is. It could be the child literally waving at someone and no one wants that. And second, because not all celebrities grant wishes or can schedule time to meet wish kids. The coolest wish I worked on was a shopping spree for a boy who was confined to his room. He got 7k to go buy video games, TVs, a tricked out lazy boy, etc. for the ultimate gaming setup. When I was a baby, until I was 5, I had cancer and got some wishes. My first wish was for a computer. I only wanted a computer because it came with a mouse. Yes, I thought it came with a real mouse. So obviously it was rejected because you can't have pets when you basically live in a hospital, and my family was broke as frick anyway, so they couldn't give us a pet. I ended up getting some dope ass googly eyeglasses and an epic trip to Disney World. It was the only family vacation we ever got to go on. I worked for Make-A-Wish Junior Genie, as I like to say. We had to say no to wishes all the time. Either the person the kid wanted to meet didn't grant wishes, the place they wanted to go didn't grant wishes, their wish was ridiculously expensive / prohibitive, their doctor didn't sign off on the wishes, it wasn't a good idea for their health, and so on. For the most part, our volunteers were pretty good at helping kids zero in on that perfect wish. I've helped coordinate some wishes that I was surprised to see were approved. Usually it's trips to far distances with a lot of stops and long stays. It's one thing to go to Japan. It's another to go to Japan for 2 weeks. It's another to go to Japan for 2 weeks and go to 10 different attractions. Not all of them give us free tickets. Many don't even give discounts. Most kids had cookie cutter wishes. Disney World, Paris, meet the president, etc. Those were my bread and butter. I hate to call them cookie cutter because I know it's such a precious memory for the kid and their family. Working there was a precious memory for me too, and I enjoyed coordinating everyone's trips. Unusual, frequent, high medical needs, lots of family, what have you. It was such an amazing thing to be a part of. I knew a friend who had cancer and overcame it, and he talked about Make-A-Wish. If it's not accepted, you apparently get a first-class trip to Disney World most people can't afford. He said he went to Disney World cause he wanted to meet a skater that was in Europe on some tour. I was really lucky to have my Make-A-Wish granted, and I just want to say they really go above and beyond. My mom has always talked about going to Hawaii, and we knew it was pretty unrealistic for our family of 4. I was pretty young when I made my wish, so I didn't even know all that Hawaii had to offer, but I chose to go there for my wish. They put us up in a penthouse suite on Waikiki Beach, and I've never experienced anything more special in my life. Everything and everyone there wanted to make sure my family had an unforgettable time, and we sure did. We were able to forget about the cancer for a little while and feel like a normal family again. Thank you so much, Make-A-Wish and all that contribute. I have experience with Make-A-Wish in the last year due to my son's condition. This was a question I asked, and the response I was given was they will do anything they can within reason. One kid wanted a swimming pool in his backyard, and they did that. Because of how the process goes with Make-A-Wish, they ask the kid a lot of questions to determine what the child wants, and to ensure there isn't any influence from the parents. My wife and I sat with my son while they asked him a lot of questions over about a 1-hour period to determine what he wanted to do. They asked my wife and I to sit there silently while he answered honestly. We are going to go to Legoland and meet Darth Vader sometime in 2019. I was a Make-A-Wish kid around 20 years ago. I was 5. I asked to be turned into a dinosaur. They said no. Couple years ago I went to Disney Orlando, and there was a little boy running around wearing a shirt that said I'm a Make-A-Wish kid. My friend had to comfort me when I cried because the toddler's mom and aunt told the pretzel vendor his Make-A-Wish was originally make mommy happy. The moment I met the workers, I asked to go to the moon but was turned down. Tried to compromise with space engineer and ended up going to Italy. Not as cool. I was too young to remember, but my mom told me how Make-A-Wish gave us a camcorder, really nice one at that, to record the time we had left with my little sister. She had leukemia. My shooty father pawned it. One of my nieces is a Make-A-Wish recipient. She had stage 4 rhabdomyosarcoma. They flew her sisters, her dad, and her grandma to Disney World, and they had the time of their lives. She's 6 years cancer free and still talks about how grateful she was for that trip. She just turned 14 and her younger sister talks about how it was her only airplane ride ever. That organization is amazing and will forever have all of our support. Edit. I would like to add that the Ronald McDonald House Charities is another amazing organization that put my family up for housing in Manhattan during her treatment over 2 years in the hospital at a minimal cost. Before that we were driving 3 hours each way every time she needed chemo. Also, shout out to the Sloan Kettering Oncology Ward for taking care of her and making her feel like a kid while she was going through treatment. According to my fiance, who has coordinated a zillion wishes, travel wishes often get denied when their doctor says that they are not fit to travel. Edit. Also, they will ask you for wishes A, B, and C in case one can be fulfilled. Want to meet John Cena? Granted. Some celebrities are harder to pin down for wishes though, and some travel wishes they will find the next best thing. Tahiti doesn't have any contracts with Make-A-Wish according to the fiance, but there will be similar island experiences that they can make happen on top of this. Apparently your experience will differ depending on the chapter that's working with you. I'm a Wish kid, and for a summer I interned at Make-A-Wish. My very last day there was a little girl who really wanted to go to SeaWorld. They had been trying all summer to make it work, and finally her doctor said that she didn't have enough strength to get on a plane to go. Make-A-Wish workers, volunteers and SeaWorld bent over backwards to make something happen for this little girl. They put on a private show before SeaWorld opened to the public for her. I had her name and lights, the trainers talked to her over Skype. It was amazing. She died later that day. My son chose a Disney cruise. He didn't even hesitate in his pick. Probably because we were on day 1 of a Disney cruise we had been planning for over a year when he took a small tumble in our stateroom and wound up breaking his femur because, unbeknownst to us, his leg was filled with Ewing's sarcoma. This trip he had been looking forward to for so long was destroyed before it even really started. So when it was wisher time, he asked for a redo of our cruise. We waited until he had been off of chemo for a couple of months, and we had a wonderful time. We even added days on at Disney World from our DVC timeshare after the cruise. Both the Make-A-Wish folks and the Disney Cruise employees told my son to make sure he wore his Make-A-Wish shirt to the parks when we were there. He did one of the days, and even though that wasn't part of his wish, the Disney cast members all treated him great. It was so nice to see him have such a wonderful trip after a ruined dream vacation and a year of non-stop hospital stays. BTW, he is doing great now. He hit 2 years off chemo this past September. I had a wish when I was 5. I asked for a winning lottery ticket and a pound of 20s. They sent me to Disney. Lol. When I was in high school I had a classmate who was diagnosed with cancer. She was on the softball team. I think it was softball though might have been soccer or something else. Her wish was for her along with her team to meet the US Olympic team. It was too much for Make-A-Wish to cover travel expenses for either team, but they were able to fly in one of the main players on the Olympic team to meet her team. She ended up making a complete recovery, and in fact by then I think she was completely cancer free. Still she wanted to do something for her team, and not just her. I got a wish as a kid, then survived. The biggest best thing I could think of was to go to Chuck E. Cheese's. I have no idea why I was fixated on that. To the credit of some good peeps, to Chuck E. Cheese's I went. I couldn't be around other people, so they opened it up at night. People deep cleaned it, sterilizing each ball and ball pit. There was dedication there. Then someone who was cleared medically worked it. Don't remember most of it, was pretty young. Mostly just remember the bits I found exciting. But that damn rat casino still makes me smile whenever I see one. Moral of story, never bet against Make-A-Wish when dealing with logistics. Every ball in pit kid I know got cancer in elementary school. He was always into history and US presidents, so he asked to meet him. They flew his whole family out to DC to meet George W. Bush. Also he actually spent more time with them than was allotted in his daily planner according to the dad. The kid beat cancer and is still doing okay at it. Yeah, after reading a few replies I typed this out forgetting what the original question was. My bad.